you please sit? Hello everyone, and welcome to this celebration of the life of Jacky Hall, who sadly left this life in St Helena's Hospice at 83 years old. She's survived by her beloved husband of 60 years, John, daughters Sue and Bridget, in-laws Tony and Sandra, grandchildren Ed, Imogen and Nathan, great-grandchildren William, Finn, Freddie, Henry and Rosie. I'm Bridget and I'll be leading our service today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm John and Jacky's oldest daughter and I live in the northeast of England. I'm an independent Catholic bishop. The music we just heard was Jacky's favourite piece from Ludwig van Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony. The last funeral I did a year ago was for my friend Amanda, and Durham Crematorium was packed with standing room only. I know that in normal circumstances my mum's funeral today would have been the same. I hope that many of you have been able to join us online and will also join in the events we have planned to celebrate my mum's amazing life. I'm now going to hand over to my sister Sue, who will be sharing some poems that reflect some of the family's feelings at the moment, a piece of music that we all remember from our earlier life, and Sue will also be sharing Mum's eulogy.
An old memory. How sweet the music sounded that summer long ago, when you were by my side, love, to list its gentle flow. I saw your eyes a-shining, I felt your rippling hair, I kissed your pearly cheek, love, and I had no thought nor care. And gay or sad the music, with subtle charm replete, I found in after years, love, 'twas you that made it sweet. For standing where we heard it, I hear again the strain. It wakes my heart, but thrills it with sad, mysterious pain. It pulses not so joyous as when you stood with me, and hand in hand we listened to that low melody. Oh, could the years turn back, love? Oh, could events be changed to what they were that time, love, before we were estranged. Were thou once more a maiden, whose smile was gold to me, were I once more the lover, whose word was life to thee. Paul Laurence Dunbar, son of two former slaves. My name is Sue Butcher. I'm Jacky's younger daughter, and I'm going to tell you a little about her life. There is so much to share, and I'm sure I'll miss out loads. So please join us at the memorial meeting if you can, to share your memories of her. Jacqueline Windsor Hall was born on the 4th of October 1937 in Stowmarket, Suffolk, the youngest of three daughters. Her mother was Doris Ophir Robinson, and her father was George, known as Harry, Francis. Doris and Harry had 15 siblings between them, so Jacky grew up surrounded by family. When Jacky was just a toddler, her mother Doris had a son, Noel. But Noel died when he was still a baby, and Doris had to experience the stress and trauma of not only losing a child, but being wrongly prosecuted for neglect. It isn't surprising that this experience had a profound effect on Jacky, especially when her second little brother, Christopher, was born. Doris wrapped Chris in cotton wool, praying he wouldn't die too. This couldn't have been easy for Jacky, who was only small herself, but Jacky and Chris became very close friends. All their stories are about pranks and fun. Chris tells how Jacky used to eat sweets in front of him, and when he asked for one, she would say, "Those who ask don't get." Next time, he wouldn't ask, and when the sweets were gone, Chris would ask why he didn't get one, and she would reply, "Those who don't ask don't want." Apparently, she got him several times with that one. I believe that Jacky's early life and the trauma of losing a baby brother had a huge effect on her values. We recently found an article she wrote about why she began writing to prisoners on death row. Here's a bit of it. When I was young, I read a book called We the Accused. I don't know who wrote this, but it made a great impression on me even before I found Quakers. It was about a man who committed murder, and the book was written in such a way that you could understand why things had happened the way they had. This book made me realise that everyone has a reason for being the way they are. It was only the good influence of people in my family and my friends over the years that prevented me from doing bad things. I now know that in prison there are a range of different people, each with their own story, but whatever they have done, and however much misery their actions have caused, they are all, without a single exception, born lovable, sociable, and non-violent. Wherever she went in her life thereafter, Jacky held this sense of respect for every human being. She always felt, even before she joined the Quakers, that there was that of God in everyone, and that meant everyone. If you had met Jacky late in life, you might think she was a quiet, retiring type. But this was because she lived her values. She didn't shout about them, instead pinning her hopes on quiet circles of transformation, as the saying goes. And she was definitely not a doormat. Indeed, there is a legendary stubbornness in her mother's family. Some years ago, a fellow Quaker told my dad that they recommended Jacky take assertiveness training. He laughed for a long time after that. Strength takes many forms. When Jacky was 15, she bought and wore a pair of tartan trousers around Colchester, where she attended high school. Tartan trousers in 1952. Her mother did not approve. I think this story from Jacky's early life shows that she was more concerned with doing the right thing than what people thought about it. Jacky was an excellent artist and took A-level art at school, painting many black backdrops for her brother's puppet theatre and the local Dedham Players. And she was also a consummate actress. She played Elvira in the 1955 Dedham Vale production of Blithe Spirit, and later in Germany she played Dolly Levi in a production of The Matchmaker. And it was through acting that Mum first met Dad. Jacky went to Colchester County High School for girls, and Dad, John, was at the Colchester Royal Grammar School. The schools held joint play reading nights, and when Jacky, aged 17, missed her bus back to Dedham one evening, John recognised her when she dropped into Neil and Robart's coffee shop in the High Street to wait for the next bus. John was just 18. He offered to buy her a coffee while she waited, and she pointed to his iced coffee on the table and said, "Thank you, I'll have one of those." Now, iced coffee was much more expensive than normal coffee, and buying one for Jacky wiped John out financially, but I don't think he minded that much. Jacky was Doris's third daughter and the third to fall in love with a man from London. Doris did not approve, so they kept their relationship secret at first. But fortunately, Jacky had caught her little brother Chris smoking, and she promised not to tell his mum if he smuggled notes to John at the grammar school. After her A-levels, Doris wouldn't let Jacky go to college and study art, and she was not destined to go to university until she was in her 40s. Instead, she got a job with Barclays Bank, and in 1960, 60 years ago, John Hall and Jacqueline Francis married at Dublin Street Baptist Church in Edinburgh. Jacky made her own dress and bought a feathered hat from Woolworths. The congregation were just two witnesses, friends they had met locally. Doris hadn't allowed them to marry from home, but they didn't care. They had each other. Thus began an amazing adventure together. It's going to play some. A few years later, they'd set up home in Newcastle, where John was doing teacher training. They were as poor as church mice by the time Bridget was born and were living on egg and chips and tinned soup. Jacky became warden of Newcastle Friends Meeting House, and the family moved into the warden's flat, where I was born 2 years later. Even when John became a full-time teacher, the salary at that time, before the reforms of the 1970s, was much too little to support a young family. But one day he found out that the British Army needed teachers for their forces schools. They would pay well and wanted adventurous types. So in 1967, with a wife, a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old, John took up a post in Singapore, and the whole family moved to the Far East for 5 years and then to Germany for another 10. At the time, it must have been a crazy thing to do, but it was an inspired thing too. John and Jacky had loads of friends from all over the world already. They were never parochial. They weren't put off by the army life. Indeed, I think Mum thought it was good for Dad, and they saw it as an opportunity to travel and meet people. Army life was never going to be easy for a pacifist, but Jacky was rather special. Her time overseas, in fact, saw a blossoming of her beliefs in peace, justice, and human rights. In the late 1960s, Singapore Quakers were supporting many conscientious objectors from the Vietnam War, and Mum also got involved in packing up penicillin and other medication to send to the civilian population in North Vietnam. Later in Germany, Mum picked up the language she'd learned a bit at school and discovered her vocation as a linguist. She worked for the Royal Military Police as an interpreter, often helping squaddies out when they fell foul of the police. She also taught English and German as a volunteer and began another vocation, prison visiting. By the time the family was living back in London, with John as head of Newport Junior School in Leighton, writing to prisoners of conscience and visiting convicted murderers was just something that Jacky did. And she did other things too. We only recently learned that she also advocated for trans women in hospital to have basic grooming rights. She was a quiet trailblazer for LGBTQ rights in the 1980s. When her daughters went to university, Jacky joined them, taking a 4-year degree in Dutch and Indonesian at UCL. As part of her degree, she spent a year in Leiden, living as a student, and 10 weeks bussing around Java like a native. She wrote her thesis on the effect of the Second World War on Dutch literature. Thus began, at 50, her professional career as a translator, which, whilst it came late, was very significant. Jacky spent 5 years as a medical translator at Beecham's before setting up her own business from home. She translated essential infectious disease information, which was published all across Africa and is still online today. She translated letters from Indonesian for dissidents in East Timor who were being helped by friends. By the time she retired, Jacky was one of only 3 specialist medical translators from Dutch to English in the UK. I could tell you so much more about her. How she spent 30 years writing to prisoners on death row in the USA for the charity Lifelines. How she stood at Greenham Common to embrace the base in 1982 and took part in an all-night vigil when their weapons arrived. How she knitted shawls for nearly all the babies in our family for the last 30 years, and how so many of us mothers keep those shawls as keepsakes today. How she has been at Dad's side for 60 years through all his crazy schemes, yet was able to have her own career and pursue her own vocations at the same time. Now she is leaving us. What does Jacky's life amount to? Who knows how many lives she has touched in her 83 years. So many people have contacted us to say what a pleasure it was to work with her, to serve with her, to worship with her, to study with her, to travel with her, to laugh with her. One letter stood out for me. It's from Jill, who was a young woman John and Jacky met nearly 40 years ago. It reads, "You and Jacky gave me a cleaning job when I was down on my luck, a single woman and totally broke. You taught me another level of respect. You both showered me with kindness and support, and within weeks I had grown love, respect, and a heart full of appreciation for you both. I still use the saucepans Jacky gave me and Mum, and treasure the blanket she crocheted. You both will always have a place engraved on my heart forever. My dearest love to you. When someone dies, they leave behind little holes all over the place. It's only when they've gone that you realise the holes that they filled. But these holes are still there, and they are still full. They are full of the love she has left behind and the love we have for her.
Thank you, Sue. So many things that made me smile and want to cry. We'll now have a short period of silence after the fashion of the Quakers, where anyone so moved to do so may share a few words. Please speak from the mic that is closest to your family bubble, so we can stick to current guidelines, and most of all, we can keep Dad as safe as possible. I will end this period by standing and returning to the mic. Imogen, my daughter, has written a few words about Jacky, her grandma, and she doesn't feel able to speak them herself. She was a lovely person to get to know and have fun with, and she tried to help anyone who needed it, and I will miss her a lot. She was easy to talk to. She made me laugh and smile. She was a very generous person, very generous and kind person. Thank you, Imogen.
A poem by Henry Scott-Holland. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you, and the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well.
Thank you, Sue. I honestly believe that that's what Mum would want to say to us. It's now time to commit Mum's physical body to the earthly elements. I realise that this time of parting is the most difficult. But before we do so, however, let us be thankful and grateful for her life, remembering the intangibles, the impact of her life on ours. We may bring to mind her smile, her frown, her quizzical look, her sense of humour, her great personality, and the way she lived her life. Remember the significant moments and the fun times you had with her, the times you struggled with her, and the times that we as a family and friends tried to support her. We will remember Jacky's life by the memories she leaves behind. But most of all, remember her with love as long as you live. Those of us who feel deeply will grieve deeply. No philosophy or religion ever taught to us can prevent this wholly natural reaction from the human heart. We come into this world with nothing, and we leave with nothing. But the memories we leave behind with our family and friends are a mark of our life's success. Nothing can detract from the joy and friendship you shared with Jacky. Nothing can possibly affect the happiness and depth of experience that she herself knew. Can we please stand? Could we have the curtains closed, please? Tenderly, lovingly, and reverently, we commit the spirit and body of Jacqueline Wilson Hall to a more peaceful place. We give thanks for your life and for your 83 years of love, friendship and memories. We now say farewell and may you rest in peace. Thank you, Jacky, Thank you for the good times. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your love and laughter. Thank you for being you. You have filled your niche and accomplished your tasks. You leave the world a richer place than you found it. With great respect, we bid you a final farewell. Continue your journey, Mum, with the love of everyone here, and many who could not be with us. Be reunited with family and friends gone before you. You will live on in the hearts of everyone you touched and nurtured while you lived on earth. And holding the thoughts of Jacky in our hearts means for us that death ends a life, not a relationship. Mum, may you leave lasting, loving memories of your short life with us all. We can now have our final piece of music, and we will leave as it ends. Sich feststellen.